Wasabi wallet. Unfairly private.
The Lightning Network is a second layer built on top of Bitcoin that allows for cheaper and faster transactions and allows the network as a whole to scale to millions of transactions per second. Now, there are many different ways to interact with the Lightning Network, including custodial and non-custodial apps that you can simply install on your mobile device, or you can go the full mile and run a full Lightning node, which is exactly what we're going to be covering today. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions, and this is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
Before we dive in, of course, a quick shout out to sponsors of the show, LEDN.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a variety of different services. Of course, they have their Bitcoin backed loans, which is primarily what I have used them for. And this really helps if you're in a pinch and you need to get your hands on dollars, but you don't want to sell your Bitcoin because, of course, that is a taxable event. And two, you might be worried about having to buy back in at a higher price. So here you're able to deposit Bitcoin, get dollars to your bank account within 24 hours. And when you pay those dollars back, you get back the exact same amount of Bitcoin. Of course, they also have their Bitcoin and USDC savings accounts with interest rates of up to 12.5% annually paid monthly. And they've got their B2X offering, which uses the same loan mechanism to instantly buy you more Bitcoin if you're feeling mega bullish. There's a link to check them out in the show notes down below. And if you click that link and opt to get either the loan products, they'll give you $25 for free into your savings. Up next, we have Bitrefill. Now, I do live on Bitcoin, and one of the things that really helps me do this is Bitrefill, in that they have just every damn gift card you can imagine in just about every country you could imagine. So you can head over here and you can easily get anything you need paid for with Bitcoin, either on the main chain or conveniently, as we're covering it today, on the Lightning Network. Of course, you also earn sats back as you shop, which is wonderful, and they've got a pretty killer referral program as well. Links for that will be down below. And finally, if you're backing up any Bitcoin wallet, including the node that you are using today for your Lightning wallet, it's a good idea to do so securely, and sometimes a piece of paper is not always the best option. So something on solid steel like the BillFodl can save you from things like fire damage, water damage, or just somebody accidentally throwing out that slip of paper. So please give yourself that peace of mind. I've heard some horror stories as of late, and this solid piece of steel with little tiles where you slide in to back up your seed phrase is exactly how I back up all major important seed phrases for wallets that I have. So be sure to check them out. And with that, let's dive into the tutorial. Now, if you are just starting with Bitcoin, running a Lightning node is probably not going to be your first step. There are some prerequisites that you should likely have before diving in here. And so I'm going to bring up some of those. So if you are at that point, then wonderful, we can go ahead. But if you're not, probably good to go back and do some basic learning first. So let's take a look at some things that might be beneficial to you first. First up, of course, Bitcoin basics. Things like where to get Bitcoin, how to use a regular Bitcoin wallet, even maybe a little bit of security about how to use a hardware device. Stuff like that is very beneficial. Also, a general knowledge of Bitcoin fees, how to set transaction fees, things like that. All of those will really help you along the way using a Lightning node. And I do have a playlist called Getting Started. You can find it and you can kind of pick through some of those videos to help you along your way. Now, up next, you also do need to have a Bitcoin node, a full Bitcoin node, not just a Lightning node, a full Bitcoin node running a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, today I'm going to be using Umbrel. But you can also use myNode, and there are some other setups that you can use as well. But I have done tutorials for both of those, both Umbrel and myNode. They're a little bit different. So if you're running myNode, it's going to look a little bit different for you to utilize the programs we're using today. But in general, if you don't have a node, go back, use this Umbrel video to get yourself set up. Really, really simple to get it rolling. So get yourself a Bitcoin node if you don't have one already. And then finally, a little bit of basic knowledge about Lightning would be incredibly beneficial. And what I'm talking about here is maybe you should play around a little bit with a non-Lightning node intensive, all the nitty-gritty first, just to familiarize yourself with how to receive and send transactions. And that will also help you here so that it isn't as foreign when you get into the nitty-gritty of running everything. I do have tutorials on that. I would recommend checking out things like Breeze or Phoenix. If you want a really easy, just jump in, try a few transactions, and then jump in here, then something like the custodial version of Blue Wallet or Wallet of Satoshi will be just fine for you. But with that said, let's chat a little bit about a Lightning node and what it entails. So let's discuss Lightning channels, because this is going to be the bulk of our learning with this tutorial. What is a Lightning channel? Well, effectively, it is the act of locking up Bitcoin between two peers in a multisig so that you can effectively allocate which Bitcoin belongs to who and do a bunch of tiny transactions off-chain before settling to the main Bitcoin blockchain. So let's do a hypothetical. Let's say you were a bartender who owned a bar. I'm a patron, and I could settle every single time you bring me a drink. This would be like doing a Bitcoin transaction every time a beer comes over to the table. However, that's not efficient. The fees would be not great. And if everybody did that, the blockchain would be so bogged down, it would be difficult to get a transaction through. We'd be waiting for final settlement, so on and so forth. Now, with Lightning, the way this would happen is I would lock up $100 in a tab with you. And every time you brought me over a drink, I would allocate $5 of my $100 pool over to you. So this is effectively a contract of that locked up Bitcoin. So let's say by the end of the night, you brought me over 5 beers. I gave you $5 each time. And so now the contract between us with that locked up Bitcoin says you get 25 bucks and I keep 75 of that. We're able to then close that channel and settle that to the main Bitcoin blockchain, only having done 2 actual on-chain transactions, one creating the multisig and one closing it out. And oftentimes these channels don't ever really need to be closed or very seldom need to be closed. So that effectively could be left open if I decided to come back another time. Okay, so that's the basics behind it. Let's take a look at a visualization that shows something like that. So here's an example of a channel open between Alice and Bob. Alice has said, hey, I'm going to be transacting with Bob a fair amount. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lock up this Bitcoin here. And if I want to pay him, I can bump it over to his side of the channel. And if either of us either have a dispute or just want to go our separate ways, we can close the channel and settle. So if Alice wants to pay Bob, say 2 Bitcoin, it would look like this. She just bumps those Bitcoin over to his side of the channel. Again, at any point, either of them can leave and keep their own Bitcoin as the updated version of that contract. Now, where it gets interesting is if Bob is also connected to another peer. Let's say Bob is also connected to Carol. He has created his own Lightning channel with her. At this point, Alice now has the option to also pay Carol through Bob. And so let's say Alice wanted to send 2 Bitcoin to Carol. She could do that by sending 2 to Bob, and then Bob sends 2 to Carol. And that would look like this. 2 moved over to Bob, and Bob bounced that down the line to Carol. And this is enforced through contracts, so it's not like Bob can just steal the money in the middle. A little animation of how this would look. You can see Alice bumps money to Bob, Bob bumps money to Carol, just like that. Now, normally, you wouldn't just have a single channel open with an individual. You would have multiple channels open to multiple well-connected other individuals or other nodes. And let's take a look at this really cool graphic here. And I'll just unclick. But this is the Lightning Network as it stands right now. And these are all participants who have Lightning nodes. And if I zoom in, we can click on an individual who has a Lightning Network node, and we can see all of their connections. You can see quite a few of them here. They've got a fair number of channels. And let's just take a look at where they're connected. Now, of course, this individual can do transactions with all of the nodes that they are currently connected with, but they can also do transactions with all of the nodes that any of their connections are connected with. So let's take a look. There's a channel here leading to this larger node. And look at all the peers that this individual has. And not only that, but this individual is connected over to this large node over here. And look at that. Look at the amount of possible pathways of connecting with peers here. So you can see very quickly there's like this 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon effect, where if you've got a few good connections, you effectively can reach everyone very easily with a transaction. Now, there is some other stuff to consider here. You have to consider a little bit about the size of your channels, because in this first instance with Alice, she has a limited amount of Bitcoin that she can send. And when Bob was connected to Carol here, he has a limited amount of Bitcoin. If he only had 1 Bitcoin locked up between him and Carol, and she wanted to send 2, like Alice wanted to send 2, that transaction wouldn't work because there'd be a bottleneck. So you got to consider the size of your channels and how you're going to be transacting as well. We will get into that, but this hopefully was a decent little primer to get your head around how Lightning channels and liquidity works. Now let's get into actually doing this thing. So first things first, let's get kind of an overview of what we're going to be looking at here. If you have not set up an Umbrel node, or if you're using myNode, then one, you've got to get a node going. So be sure to head back and do that. But if you're using myNode, the interface will look a little bit different, but these concepts are still generally the same. Within your node, you're going to have 2 separate wallets. You're going to have a Bitcoin wallet and a Lightning wallet. All right. These are also accessible via the side here. Now, your Bitcoin wallet is going to need to have funds in it in order to load up the Lightning wallet. So very easy to do that within your Bitcoin wallet. You just hit deposit. You're greeted with your address via QR code and down below. And again, part of the prerequisite is knowing how to use Bitcoin regular transactions as is. So be sure to load that up and send yourself some Bitcoin so that you have it sitting on your node. Now, the Lightning wallet I did show in my Umbrel tutorial. Okay, I did show that previously. However, this is not how we're going to be interacting with Lightning today. It is important to know that any apps within Umbrel that reference Lightning will be all just ways of interacting with this particular Lightning node. It's all the same. It's just different ways of looking at it. Okay. So what we're going to be using today is something within the App Store. So since doing my original Umbrel node video, they have added an App Store where you can download a whole bunch of different stuff. And you can see over here, there's 4 different options, and eventually there may be more, for Lightning node management. They have Ride the Lightning, Lightning Terminal, ThunderHub, and LN Bits. Today, I'm going to be using ThunderHub primarily, and we will pop into Lightning Terminal once just to do something, but I will go in depth with Lightning Terminal in another video. But for now, I have my apps. Again, I can go to my apps tab here, and I can see ThunderHub, and I can just click on it and open it up. Now, I do already have it open, so let's just take a look at that. And I'll get back to the home page here. This is what you will see when you first land. And of course, I already have funds in Lightning and on my Umbrel node, so it'll look a little bit different. And I already have channels going. So yours will be a little bit more bare initially. But let's look at what's in front of us. On your home page, you're going to get a lot of basic stuff. How much you've got sitting in Lightning, how much you've got sitting in Bitcoin. You'll have your public key, just information based on your node if somebody wants to connect with you. All of your quick actions, if you want to open a channel, will be down here. If you want to take a look at an invoice, all kinds of different stuff here. Invoices and payments reports, any balances that you have incoming and outgoing, how much you're able to spend and receive. Lots of different information about routes and transactions going through. And I'm kind of glossing this over because we'll get to some of it later. You can click on your peers, see anybody that you currently have channels open with and your relationships with them. Again, you can get more details on channels that you're using and incoming and outgoing transactions and fees and all of that. You can rebalance your channels. We'll get into that concept later. Lots of great details throughout here. Again, previous transactions you can take a look at. Any transactions that have been forwarded through your node and any fees that you've collected from doing that. Any of your on-chain transactions. There's tools here regarding backups, swapping into and out of Lightning. That's an option here. And stats about your node and just in general, if you've got a really well-connected node, stats in terms of if you're on a kind of high-ranking list in terms of your node. There's also settings down below for whether you want to see in sats, in Bitcoin, or in fiat dollars. And you can change between light mode, night mode, and dark mode. So all of that is there. You also have settings up top in the right-hand corner. There's a toggle and you can set things over there as well. Okay, so that's kind of the basics of what's in front of you for ThunderHub. And more or less, we will be diving into the details of that in general, but pretty much your side menu here is going to get you where you need to go, and you've got a summary of all funds up in the top left. Now, we also want to familiarize ourselves with a website called OneML, and OneML is a website that you can look up information in regards to other Lightning nodes or your own Lightning nodes. So let's just look up mine as an example. So mine does have an alias. It is named BTC Sessions, but here it is right here. And if I click on my node, I can see my public key. And this is the information that anybody would need just to connect and create a channel with me. It gives you some stats on your node. And some of these node rank stats here, basically the idea is the lower the number, the better. Okay, so it's ranking from 1 and then downwards. So if your node is often offline, or if it's relatively new, then your availability will be relatively low. But as you've been online longer, then this will reduce the number here. And so I can also see the capacity in terms of other Lightning nodes doing pretty well. I'm a special case because I'm lucky enough to have a number of people that wanted to connect with me. But besides the point, this kind of just gives you an idea. Now, when you're looking to connect with other people, you're kind of looking for lower values here. You're looking for an availability, probably below 500 is a good aim. Same with, depending on what you're looking to do, somewhat higher capacity would be better, but we'll get into the details of that later. And the number of channels is also another one to look at. So you can see channel count ranking. It says that I've got 33 channels there, and I'm decently up the list for the amount of connections. So that's kind of a roundabout way of using OneML. You can also just go on there and browse and look through. It'll show you some of the top capacity increases and the top number of channels. You don't always necessarily want to connect to large channels, because if you have other people connecting through you, you'll find those channels tend to drain because people are routing payments that way, and you need to rebalance once in a while. Again, details we'll get into later. But you can just kind of go for a stroll. And one way that I like to do this is I hit the directory and you just pick a random type of node, like productivity. People can designate their type of node that they're running. And then you can just kind of look through and see, okay, so this person has about half a Bitcoin of capacity going in and out. And if I click on them, I can see, again, availability 584. Not fantastic, but on its way down. So that's not bad. And then I can also see people just above or just below this individual. And then I can start clicking through. Okay, what about this person? They've got a bit more capacity, although they're not as available. They had a little bit more downtime. Okay, let's go a couple more up. No, this person has a lot of downtime. Let's keep going. And you can just kind of start clicking through and seeing what might be, this person's doing all right. So availability 154, capacity 532, in and around that 500 range. Not bad. Okay, not bad. So this is an individual that maybe you might want to open up a channel with. You can also go to stats and you can see their average channel capacity. This person has an average channel capacity of 0.045 Bitcoin, around $2,500, or I guess that would be 4.5 million sats. And the reason that's important to look at is because it depends on what size of transactions you are going to be sending. If somebody's average channel capacity is only $50 and you want to send $100 or $200 payments, that's going to be a bottleneck for you. And if you ever want to send a large transaction, so if I ever think I might send more than $2,500 through the Lightning Network, then maybe this isn't a good peer for me to connect to because I want an average channel capacity above that. So all things to consider when you're connecting to another peer. And you should be somewhat picky with who you connect to or who you tie up your own Bitcoin with, because if it doesn't serve you, if you're not able to route payments through them, then you've now locked up Bitcoin that kind of becomes useless to you. And you might need to close the channel later, and that incurs on-chain fees. So you got to do this balancing act. So just keep that in mind as you're opening channels, but we're going to dive into actually opening some channels right now. So we're going to start diving in here, and what we're going to do first is we're going to set up a basic channel. So you saw me kind of peeking through that website OneML before, looking at various nodes where I might want to connect a channel. However, you can also do this if you know somebody that has a Lightning node and you would like to create a channel with them. And so that's what I'm going to be doing right now. Now, I know somebody that has said that they wouldn't mind me setting up a channel with them, or vice versa. And so I'm going to do so. Now, what they have sent me is their public key. And on your node in ThunderHub, it looks like this. It's right here. Boom. That's the information that somebody needs to know in order to set up a channel with you. In fact, what you'll end up doing is there's this little button that says onion, and you hit that and it copies the onion address that somebody needs in order to open a channel with you. Now, I was able to search up this person on OneML as well to see their channel, capacity, all that kind of stuff. And you'll notice that their public key is above, and down below is the full onion address. And this is what we need to open a channel with them. So really simply, what I'm going to do is I copy this information, and maybe somebody sends it via message to you, whatever. As long as you have that information, you're good. And then I just go to ThunderHub, and just partway down the page, you're going to see a button that says open. This is going to open up a set of possible places where you could open channels with where they suggest, but you want a manual open. So you're going to hit the open button to give you all those options. Now, first it asks you, is this a new person, a new peer that you're connecting with? Yes, it is. So I'm going to hit yes. Now, is this, it asks for the new node information, and that's where we're going to paste in the information we just copied. Okay. Next, it says, what channel size do you want? How much do you want to be able to spend between you and this person? I'm going to set it for 1 million Satoshis. Now, the reason I'm doing that is anything below 1 million Satoshis can be a little bit more difficult to maintain. And what I mean is the on-chain fees of opening and closing that channel can cut into kind of what you're trying to do. You can open smaller channels. Of course, you can do 500,000, 250,000 sats. It just depends on what you're trying to do. And I like to have slightly bigger channels so that I don't run into bottlenecks if I'm trying to send out. So I'm going to do 1 million sats. And it says, do you want to push tokens to a partner? So this means if I want to also pay the person in the process while I'm setting up this channel, that's not the case. We'll look at that later. Now, the type, is this public or private? It's public, it's fine. And then the fee for setting up the channel. So the on-chain transaction fee. And so I will open up the mempool here just to kind of see where we're at. Now, fees right now are high. Okay, it's a little bit busier today. I will eat the fees on opening these channels today because I'm trying to get this tutorial done and over with. But if you're setting up your node, it's in your best interest to wait till a time when the mempool kind of clears out a little bit. We did see that over the weekend. Weekends tend to be a good time, particularly on Sundays. It tends to clear out a little bit. So keep that in mind as you're setting up your node. You can save some on fees if you're waiting out here. For me, you know, I want to get into this next couple of blocks here. So I'm probably going to drop 70 or 80 sats per byte. I know that's a lot. I am overpaying a little bit, but that's okay. So, you know, I'll take that hit. Okay, and then that's it. It's a new peer. I have the information to connect. I have the channel size. And then I have my sats per byte, what I'm paying for my fee to open the channel. I'm going to go ahead and hit the open channel button. Takes a second to process. We should get a notification in the top right corner. There we go. Channel opened. And now if we go to channels, up at the top here, what you'll see, this is a list of all of your open channels, any pending channels, and any closed channels. So you can see I already do have channels open. For you right now, this will be blank, but you can click on pending and you will, and if it doesn't show, you just hit refresh and then it will show. Go back to pending. There we go. Okay, so I can see my pending channel with Crypto Economy. Yes, indeed. The Bitcoin Audible, Mr. Guy Swan. So that is pending. If I click on it, I get a drop down of all of the information about it, about his node capacity, everything, so on and so forth. And I can even copy the transaction ID and go over to mempool and just paste it in. And now I can watch that transaction. What will happen is once it's confirmed, and I believe it needs 2 confirmations, if I'm not mistaken. Once it is confirmed with a couple confirmations, then that channel will be open and I will be able to use it as liquidity to send transactions out. Now, keep in mind here, Guy Swan has not opened a channel with me yet. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, guy. But that means that with this particular channel, I'll be able to send out but not receive. And we'll cover that portion of it later as we look at other channels. So we will continue to check on this once it opens. But in the meantime, let's look at how to open a channel in a different way. So we're going to go back to ThunderHub here. We'll just go back to home so we can kind of recenter ourselves. And what we want to do is we're going to be opening a channel with another individual, but we're going to do a push payment as we do it. And so what that means is I'm locking up Bitcoin in a Lightning channel, and I'm simultaneously shifting some of that Bitcoin to the ownership of somebody else at the same time. So the reason you might do this is, one, if you already owe somebody some sats and you want to open a Lightning channel with them, you can pay them at the same time, and you can designate that as we set it up. Or if you would like to set up a Lightning channel with somebody mutually who you know, and you agree that, okay, we want the channel to be well balanced so we both can send back and forth right off the hop, what you can do is you can push half of it, half of the liquidity, over to the other individual, and then they can send you a regular Bitcoin transaction back. So let's say you were opening a channel for 2 million sats with somebody, and you want a well-balanced channel. As you open it, you can push 1 million of those sats, half of it, to the person in the Lightning channel, and then they'll send you a transaction to your regular Bitcoin wallet for 1 million sats. So you both have the spending ability and the receiving ability, and you're all squared off and even, so nobody's losing money in that transaction. So let's take a look at how to do that. Again, we go down, and I have an individual, same idea here. I want to open a channel with this individual. I currently owe them some sats. And so this is their node. And this is the information that they sent me in terms of the connection info. And again, you don't have to open up OneML if somebody sends you the information, but I just wanted to represent it on the screen here. And just as before, on our main home screen, we go to open. And manual, we'll hit the open button again. Now, is this a new peer? Yes, it is. You paste in the information for their node. Now, what is the channel size going to be? I'm going to do another 1 million sat channel. Now, this is the part where we use the push tokens to partner option. So in this case, it's a specific number of sats that I'm pushing to this person. So I'm not going to do the half. I'm going to do custom. And 41, 31, 5. So 41,315 sats is what is outstanding, what I owe this individual, and that will get pushed to them as I open this. And then what do we need for sats per byte? Again, this one I'm not in as much of a rush. Oh, I don't know if you heard the little cue there, but my transaction was just confirmed from before. I'm not in as much of a rush with this channel, so I'll set it a little bit lower. I'll probably do about 30 sats per byte. Should probably do me maybe 30 sats per byte. Okay, so I'll just put that information in, 30. Everything else looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit open channel just as before. Okay, channel is opened. And so what I've done is I've opened a channel with this individual. Let's go into our channels over on the left-hand side here and go into pending. Just hit a quick refresh there. Pending one more time. Okay, there is the new channel that I've just opened up. I can click on it. And again, if I want, I can track that transaction by copying the transaction ID here and heading over to mempool.space. Let's just have a different window for it. And I can just track that. By the way, the reason I'm opening a new window, this mempool.space is linked to the Umbrel node. So it's like a private kind of set of data rather than connecting to the internet. But if you just click on the transaction ID, it will open up in the regular website as well. Okay. So anyways, there's my transaction waiting to get through. But effectively what I've done is I've paid this person as I open up the channel. And once that channel is open, they will see that they have 41,000 sats on their side of it. So I have paid them at the same time. Perfect. So we basically have two channels now just waiting to be confirmed, and we're off to the races. Now there is one other way to go ahead and open a channel. And this is actually the first thing I ever did when I started up this Lightning node. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to open a channel with a pretty big node that isn't necessarily a merchant, because if I open with a merchant and I have a lot of other peers connected to me, I may find that that channel drains rather quickly. What I want is I want to open up a channel with a large node. So one of the largest nodes that's easy to find, I'll go to OneML right here, is async. Okay, and you see it right here, top channel count increase. They're always up top. They're one of the biggest nodes out there. Async right there. And It's the number one in terms of channels. So it's the largest out there, the most for capacity. And so the reason I'm going to open a channel with these individuals is I'm going to do something called a loop out. And this is kind of like the push that I just did with the last opening channel, where I'm going to create a channel with a large amount of sats allocated to it. But then I'm going to use a service called Lightning Loop to send Bitcoin through that channel to async and then route it to Lightning Labs. And Lightning Labs in turn will then send me a regular Bitcoin transaction back. Now, why might I do this? Same reason as wanting a balanced channel before. This is so that I have a large amount of inbound capacity so I can accept a lot of payments via Lightning Network in the future. And so this is what I did. Actually, we can even go and look at my async channel from before. So we can see it is right here up top. So this was a 10 million Satoshi channel. And I opened that initially, and then I looped out 8 million sats. So I still had some spending capacity, but you can see now the balance started to shift. On my side, there's 3.2 million. And on their side, there's 6.8 million. So this means that I can accept 6.8 million sats worth of payments through this particular channel. So if this is seeming a little bit over your head, let's just go through the steps and see what it looks like. So I've got the async node right here. This is the information I need to connect to them. I'm going to copy that information. Now I'm going to go over to ThunderHub. I'm going to go channels. Then I'm going to go home rather, and I'm going to go to the open. At this point, we're going to hit the manual open as well. Now, this is the interesting part. If I was opening up a channel with somebody I'm already connected to, I would do the drop down, and I can see async is in here, right there. That's the same information as before. It's the same node, everything. I could designate a certain number of sats, 1 million, 10 million, whatever it's going to be. I'm not going to push because we're doing a loop. If I push, in this case, I don't know who's at async. Nobody knows that I'm doing this. They'll just have extra money and they won't know why. So this is not what I'm trying to do, okay? So I'm not pushing. And then you would set your sats per byte and you would open a channel. Let's just pretend I already went through those steps, and we're going to refer back to my already open channel with async. So let's just pretend that I had opened a channel and I already had funds allocated to async here, and it was a 3.2 million Satoshi channel. Okay. I want some of that back so that I can open up other channels in the future. I just want the ability to receive the funds through async because they're really well connected. Well, what can we do? We can use something called, and let me relog into my Umbrel here. We can use something called Lightning Loop, or something through Lightning Labs called Loop. And so this is in the App Store. It is Lightning Terminal. That's the one that you want. You just download it. I've already downloaded it. I can click on it and log in. By the way, the default password on Umbrel, unless you change it, is moneyprintergoburr. Okay, and this is Lightning Terminal. I'm not going to get super deep into exactly all that's here. This will be a future video as well, but may be useful for some of you setting up your first channels. So let's assume that you created a large channel with async and all of the capacity is on your side. So you can spend out pretty easily, but you still can't receive payments. You can change that balance by, on the first tab here under Lightning Terminal, hitting the loop button. You got to find that channel that is async. And then you're going to choose loop out. This is where you're taking money out of Lightning Network and back into your regular Bitcoin wallet. Now, right here, you're going to choose the amount of sats. I'm just going to do 1 million sats because I've got about 3 million in capacity to send out. I don't want to pull too much out of that for right now. it is in your best interest to pull a larger amount in that it cuts down on the fees that you're going to pay here. You've got two fees to contend with, the loop fee, which is 0.5%, and the on-chain transaction fee, okay? If you want, under additional options here, you can set a confirmation target. So if you're not interested in waiting a super long, or if you don't mind waiting a super long time and you want lower fees, sure, you can put in a certain number of blocks, or you can change the address that you would like to receive to. The default is just the address of your own Umbrel node, which I'm going to leave. So I'm not going to change anything here. I'm going to hit next. I can see, yes, it is going to be a bit of a steep fee. It's 1.67% of the total lot. And a good portion of that is just the on-chain fee because I'm not optimizing for what I'm doing right now. Again, ideally, I'd be doing a larger chunk of a larger channel. But hey, that's okay. This is just for educational purposes. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead. This is fine. I'll eat the fee for right now. And I'm going to hit confirm. And so what this does is it's saying to Lightning Labs, hey, this person will send you 1 million sats via Lightning plus a fee if you send them 1 million sats to their own Bitcoin wallet. And that's what's taking place right now. Okay, so this does take a while to execute. Sometimes it can be quite a while. I think I've waited an hour for this previously, but that's because also you're settling on chain. Lightning Labs has their own thing in the background that does loop. So it's a useful tool if you're trying to get inbound capacity while setting up your node and you maybe don't have peers yet that want to open up channels with you. So use the tools that you have. We will check back on this momentarily once all of this gets sorted, including those earlier channels. All right, when the loop is finished, you will see the loops complete thing here. That is all set. I can head back to Umbrel, and if I go to my home, I should see, yep, there is in my Bitcoin wallet a deposit just shy of 1 million sats. So they actually take the fee from the million that I looped out. So there's the deposit 8 minutes ago that came in. So that is all set. I can also see that my older transaction opening a channel with Guy Swan is very well confirmed, as well as the other transaction opening the channel with the person that I pushed a payment to. So those are both all set. So let's take a look in ThunderHub. And again, just to refresh you, moving from our home screen here, you would just go to channels on the left-hand side. And I can see here the async one. Remember, it was around 2.3 million. Or it was 3.3 million sats was on my side of the channel. Well, now that has shifted over. So I sent 1 million through that channel to pay Lightning Labs. And that was paid back to me main chain. Now, I also, I believe, can scroll down. I just got to find them here. There's Crypto Economy. There we go. There's that channel that I just opened there. And I can't remember the name of the other channel that I had. It should be somewhere around here. There it is right there, 41.3K. So there's that push payment. So I opened a channel and I paid the person at the same time. So we basically have opened 3 channels in 3 different ways. We have done it with a regular open where all of the capacity stays on my side and I can spend easily. We've done it with a push payment where I paid somebody in the process, splitting up some of the capacity. And then we've done a regular channel open with a loop out, which got me Bitcoin back on the main chain while maintaining some liquidity in the channel so I can receive Lightning payments later. Fun. Okay. In the process, we did get some inbound liquidity, but really quick, let's review how somebody might connect with you in order to get capacity on their side to be able to send out. And you'll notice in my channels, you'll notice some of them where all of the capacity is on the other side. And this is a channel where somebody has opened with me and all of the Bitcoin is on their side. But if they route a payment through my node, we will notice that shift over and start to spill into my side of the channel. You can also see, let's see, Bitcoiner support open a channel with me, Mr. Nice Node, myNode BTC. So there's a number of individuals that have opened channels with me where there hasn't been a movement of funds as of yet, but there's a lot of different channels. Anything in blue is on my side, meaning that I can spend. Anything in green is on their side, meaning that I can receive, or they can all be used to route payments from others that are just connected to us in some way without costing me any money. In fact, you actually can gain some fees from doing that. Now, again, for somebody to connect to you, all you need to do, go to your home screen. You can copy your public key and give them that, or you can just hit the copy onion button and that copies the entire chain that they need to connect directly to you. And that's pretty much it. Now, in terms of inbound capacity, you can do it other ways as well. So if you can't find somebody to connect to you, I highly recommend that you do try that. Jump on Bitcoin Twitter, start tweeting out, tag a few people, see who you can find. There are Telegram groups for this type of stuff. So be sure to look around. You'll definitely be able to find some people. However, you can also rent inbound liquidity. So if you're a merchant and you know you're going to be accepting a lot of different lightning payments, but you don't have inbound liquidity, you can actually rent that. You can do it through somebody like Bitrefill. They do have Thor channels, and basically it's you paying to have them lock up their Bitcoin and open a channel with you so that you can receive payments. You don't have to do this, but if you're in a pinch, might be an option. So you can see about 11 or 12 bucks to get a 1 million sat channel open to you. Now, this does have some limitations. They will keep it open for 30 days. If there is no movement on that channel, if there's no consistent movement of funds, then they may close the channel on you. So just keep that in mind. This isn't like the best way to do it, but it is definitely an option. Alternatively, we were on Lightning Terminal, and this will be a future video. But you can actually join a marketplace and pay individuals to lock up their Bitcoin and open channels with you using Lightning Pool. But that is for another day, and I digress. So we're going to finish up with the channel talk, and let's assume that it took you a little while to kind of get things under control and get some channels going. It may take you a while to get yourself well set up. But once you start having some capacity on both sides with some well-connected channels, then it's time to start doing transactions. And that's what we're going to take a look at next. So to receive transactions directly to your Lightning node, really simple, just from your home screen, under your accounts and then the Lightning account here, there is a receive button. And you're going to create a Lightning invoice for a certain number of sats that you would like to receive. I'm just going to do a small one for 1,000 Satoshis. You can enter a description if you like, or an expiry. I'm not going to do either of those things. I'm just going to go ahead and hit create invoice. Now this gives me a Lightning invoice in text, which I could hit the copy button and then I could paste that into a message to somebody, or for a certain amount of time it counts down, this QR code will be available as well. So just within, I'm using Blue Wallet right now, just as a proof of concept. I'm going to do a quick scan of that. I can see the invoice pops up on my wallet and tells me it's 1,000 sats. And I'm just going to hit pay. And that should show up in no time at all. Hopefully approved via my node. So there we go. I can see it says paid, and it says the same on my phone. Sorry for the reflection, but you get the point. So that's how you receive regularly via an invoice. And you can do that for any amount that you like, assuming that you have the capacity to receive that via one of your channels. Now, another way, and this is an interesting one, that you can do is Keysend. Now, what is Keysend? Keysend is somebody sending directly to your node. So let me just get my information here, my node information. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. I'm going to head right over to OneML, that website we've been using. And there's my node. Okay, and this is my node information. Keysend allows you to send directly to an individual's node without having to create invoices. Now, I'm going to be doing this via Breeze, okay, via Breeze wallet. This is another Lightning wallet that I've done tutorials on. I've got about 10,000 sats sitting in it right now, and I'm going to try sending over just 10, or not 10,000, just 1,000 sats via Keysend. Now, not every Lightning wallet allows for this. There are certain reasons why. There's no payment trail when it comes to Keysend. Somebody could pretend that you didn't pay them. So this is probably better used for like tipping. All right. So if you're going to give somebody a tip, then you can do a Keysend directly to their node. All right. And if you want them to notice it, you might want to let them know that you did it. Okay. But for this, I can just hit the scan button and I can simply scan the node, and then it prompts me within Breeze, how much do you want to send? So I'm just going to hit 1,000 and I'm going to hit pay, and it says, are you sure you want to send 1,000 sats to this node? And I confirm that. And then it will create what's known as a Keysend transaction direct to that node. There will be no notifications or anything like that. But if I go back and I look in my transactions on my node, then I will see it. It does say payment was successfully sent. So I can head over and I should be able to just hit refresh here and see if I've got an incoming transaction. Indeed. Okay. So I can see there's 1,000 sats coming in from 16 seconds ago. So all set. That has been received, and 2 different ways to receive via Lightning. Now, what about sending out? That's what we're going to do next. So let's practice spending or sending out some Lightning transactions from our node now that we're all well connected and we know we can receive. So I have brought up something I just want to buy. This is bitcoinshirt.co, and they have a red hoodie here, hashtag reckless with a lightning symbol. So why not? Let's grab this. So I've already gone through, filled out my info, and I have a BTC Pay invoice here. And anytime that you're spending Bitcoin, oftentimes with BTC Pay Server, you can toggle between Bitcoin and Lightning Network. So this is a Lightning Network invoice. I can just hit copy here, and it is a Bolt 11 invoice. If I just tap that, it will copy all that information. I can then head over to my Thunder Hub, and we're going to, in your accounts, under Lightning, we're going to hit send. Now, if you want, you can actually go down and hit decode and paste in your address or your invoice here, and it'll tell you what's going on, what you're sending, who you're sending to, so on and so forth. So here it says, hey, it's going to be paid to Bitcoin Shirt Store. It's counting down. Here's the amount. All of this stuff. It lets you know kind of what the hops are going to be in between, what's likely to happen, so on and so forth. So we're going to just try this out. This looks all good to me. I'm going to paste in that invoice. Now, what is the max fee that you would like to pay? So again, with each hop, you may be incurring like a Satoshi or 2 fee. So I don't mind having a fee that is a few sats, whatever it may be. So I'm going to set my fee to 100 sats. It's not going to be that much probably, but it kind of gives me that wiggle room. Max pass, I usually just leave this at 1. And if you want to, you can choose which channel it goes out through, but just beware, if you choose one that doesn't have the liquidity or the path, you may have a failed payment. So let's just try that out. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hit pay. All right, payment is sent. Let's jump back over to that invoice. Invoice has been paid. All good. So we were able to successfully send out. I'll have myself a new hoodie whenever that ships out. Great. That's fantastic. I'm going to close these out. So that is one way to pay. Now, I previously mentioned receiving via Keysend. Now we're going to actually send a transaction via Keysend. And again, this is better used, I'd say, for tips more than anything. But I digress. Let's take a look here. So there is an awesome dude who spent some time with me teaching me a lot of this stuff, and I'm still very new to a lot of it, but he was kind enough to sit down on a call with me for like well over an hour to explain a lot about Thunder Hub and help me wrap my head around of it. His name is Nate, and on Twitter at Beef or Bacon 1. Well worth a follow. He was also on Bitcoin Kindergarten podcast. You can find the episode on YouTube and any other podcasts where he explains a lot of what we're going through today. Anyways, I appreciate him and his time. So let's do a key send to his node, which I have pulled up here. And all we need is we just need the public key of that node. So I'm going to copy that right now. We'll jump back to Thunder Hub, and just as before, we go into our main page, your accounts under Lightning. We're going to hit send. The first thing we're going to do, it says, is this a key send? We're going to hit yes this time, and then we're going to paste in the public key. We're going to hit decode. And at that point, it says, hey, how much do you want to send? So, he was pretty awesome with me. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to send the dude 50,000 sats. All right. So we'll shoot that off. We'll just hit send. Payment sent. So there you go. 50K sats, dude. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. And I highly recommend everybody go check it out. Of course, unless he watches this, he may not realize that has happened. But either way, I hope he enjoys the sats. So that is sending. Now, I did want to reiterate a couple other things about sending. So just taking a look at the send screen, when we hit send, I kind of glossed over the max paths thing earlier. What this does is if you try to send a transaction through a single path, just going through one node to the next node, to the next node, to the next node, you may run into bottlenecks. And that means you may run into instances where there's not enough capacity to just jump from node to node to send off a transaction. If that fails, you can bump up this number. And what that means is maybe if you go just to two paths, it means it splits your payment amongst different channels and can go out and then coalesce on that singular destination. So you're paying through two different routes. The reason you may not do this initially is because it can incur higher fees, but keep that in mind and you can tinker with these numbers as you go to try and get your payment to go through successfully if having a relatively low fee and a single path does not work for you. I hope that makes sense. So now that we've basically got a well set up node, we've got lots of channels in and out, liquidity on both sides of those, we've practiced sending and receiving transactions. Let's dig a little bit deeper into what's in front of us and what information and settings we can tinker with within our node. Okay, so what I want to look at right now is our list of channels. So over on the left-hand side, we click on channels. And as I'm sure you figured out, this is a list of every channel that we have open either to us or that we have open with somebody else. And when you hover over this, you can see the local and remote balance. Anything blue, again, is what I can spend. That is local. Anything green is what I can receive, and that is remote. Okay, so you can see, for instance, this channel up top, somebody opened with me, satbase.org, apparently, 10 million sats. So, I mean, looks like they like to route a lot of payments through me. Great, wonderful. But I cannot spend out through them until some comes in towards me and I gain some liquidity there. But either way, great. You can see as we go down, async, I do have a little bit more of a balance. I can send out around 2 million sats, and inbound, getting close to around 8 million sats I can receive. This one in the middle, Wallet of Satoshi, Requartz, Pear Tree, they're all pretty balanced, sending and receiving on both ends. Now, you may notice some of your channels may show up as red. That means for the time being, the peer is currently offline and you're not going to be able to utilize that channel to do payments. Now, if I click on any particular node, and we'll just use the red one as an example. It shows all kinds of different information here, the local balance and remote balance. It also shows you how much you've received through this channel and how much you've sent through the channel, and any reserves that have been put off to the side. You can see the node's public key, which you can click on and see all their other channels, the transaction ID that was used to open the channel. You can also, and this is relevant for this offline peer, you can see the age of the channel and the time offline versus the time online. Now, this guy's only been offline for about an hour and a half over the past 2.5 days. I'm not super worried about that. He may just have had an internet outage or something like that right now that he's trying to figure out. Maybe he's not home to reboot his router. Again, not worried. But if you see somebody that's been offline for a vast majority, maybe it's time to think about closing that channel out because the peer is relatively unresponsive. Now, in order to actually close a channel, you can hit the close channel button down below. Now, I'm not going to be doing this, but if they are responsive, it says, do you want to force close the channel? You can just keep that on no, and then you just hit a fee, an on-chain fee that you're willing to pay to close out the channel, and then you just hit close here. So I could hit 10 sats per byte if I'm not in a rush or whatever, and hit close channel. Now, if the person is unresponsive, that's when you would hit yes to force close channel, and it will just use the some of the reserves in order to close out that channel. Either way, I'm going to leave this one running. I am happy with it. And that's pretty much that. There's one other thing that you can do, and I want to show you this in comparison. Okay, so let's go to my Bitrefill channel. Okay, so you can actually hit update details, and this is where you can set your fees. Now, the fees here, there's a base fee, which means if any transaction is routed through this channel of yours, there will be a minimum charge of 1 sat. That's basically as low as you can go. Great, wonderful. Now, you also set a fee rate. When you initially start off, this will be set to 1, effectively 0%. However, if you notice that certain channels drain quicker, that a lot of people are trying to route through you, you can easily bump up the fees on those channels. You may not want to do that right off the bat as you're establishing yourself, but as you find more transactions are being routed through you, you can bump this up. A good starting place might be 250, which is 0.025%. So still very, very low. Some people have it up around 300. For this one, because I know it is a merchant and more people route transactions through them, I'm okay with 500. So it's kind of up to you. If you start setting it too high and you notice transactions are no longer going through it, you can lower it, but this can constantly be changed whenever you like. Okay. One that I've noticed that I've routed quite a few through is Wallet of Satoshi. I have that one up quite high. I put it at 1,000. I don't know that any have been routed through there, but I'm just kind of testing the waters. And this is kind of what you can do with Lightning. You can tinker and see what works and what doesn't. It was previously at 500. There was still a lot of transactions going through, but hey, feel free to play around with this. Don't worry too much about your fees. You can tinker and see what works for you. Now, you may find that certain channels always tend to drain in a certain direction, either remote or local, where you can send a lot out, but you can't receive a lot constantly, or where you can receive a lot, but you can't send a lot, just based on the direction of transactions that you are routing. What you can do, if you find this happens a lot, especially with particular channels, is you can use the rebalance function here in ThunderHub. So just along the side, there's a rebalance tab that you can click on. And here you're brought to a screen where you select the outgoing channel and the incoming channel. And effectively, you're bumping some sats from one channel over to the next to make things balance out a little bit. So on the outgoing side, I know that I've got a channel with Bitrefill, which is relatively well connected, that is entirely local. Okay, so I can send, but I basically can't receive much of anything through there. Now, on the incoming side, there are a number of different nodes that I have, mostly incoming and no outgoing. Okay, so here's one where I've got only 10% of capacity is on my side and the rest is on the other side. So maybe I would like to route some sats through Bitrefill and have it come out on the other side of this channel so that things are a bit more balanced. So I've chosen my 2 routes that I'd like to go through. And at this point, we need to set the fees that we would be okay with paying in the process of rebalancing these channels. And these are kind of like a maximum that you're willing to pay. Now for this, I don't mind paying, I don't know, let's call it 2,000 sats, and it's not going to get up that. I'm setting it that high, so it's more likely that it'll work for this tutorial, but you can keep it quite low and then just poke and prod and see what turns out for you. They started at 10 sats, just to give you an idea, but I'm just hedging my bets. And then a max fee rate, the highest I had set on any of my channels was 1,000, and I don't even know if anything's going through them. So I'll just set that as my lower end. And a lot of people are going to look at that and say, that's crazy. That's way too high. Again, I'm just hedging my bets because I don't want to tinker too much while I'm doing this. Next, you're going to choose the amount that you would like to route through to bump between the channels. You can do a fixed amount where you're like, I need this amount to go through, or you can do a target amount where you're like, if it comes up a little bit short, no big deal. I'm going to do target, and I'm going to do 600,000 sats just to kind of see how that goes. If you want, you can avoid certain nodes. If you know there's ones that have stupidly high fees, you can put that in there. Everything looks good to me, so I'm going to hit the rebalance button, see how it pans out. Now, of course, this is dependent on it finding a route between these 2 channels. Who knows if that will happen? And it has to be within the confines of the fees that I set. We shall see.
A few moments later.
So it didn't go through, not a big deal. Again, I just wanted to show you the example. It could have been that there wasn't the liquidity in some of the channels along the way that it found. Not a big deal. This is just something that you can tinker with if you choose to. I have successfully rebalanced in the past, so just know that that's not necessarily representative of it. But as I suspect with a lot of Lightning stuff, it will continue to become easier and easier to do this into the future, but at least you know the basics now. We can dig into some of the data that we do get through our node here. There's a few things that I found interesting. One of them is if you go to the forwards tab and click, you can see the channels that are most frequently used in routing payments. I can see that going in through the stacking sats through the TFTC node and out through Wallet of Satoshi. It's routed 8 payments that way. In fact, routing channels or routing payments out through the Wallet of Satoshi one have been quite frequent. And stacking sats seems to have a lot of ones coming in through it, at least 12 of them that I can see here. You can see a count along the side. Now, you can also see up here, you can see a count based on whatever time frame you're looking at. So this is kind of zoomed in, but based on the week, how many payments you routed. I did 34 on a one day there, 5, 10, 7. So it depends how well connected you are. You can see how many sats were sent total on a particular day. And then you can also click on fees and see the fees in total that you have collected and how much have gone through on certain days. So 460 that day. One day it was 2,000 sats that came through. It just really depends on what your fees are set, but interesting to look at nonetheless. You can also see grouped by channel, incoming and outgoing. You can see which ones are heavy on one side or the other, and which ones are a little bit more balanced are probably the smaller ones. But yeah, a lot of good stuff to look at through there. Now, another interesting thing that I found here is under stats on the left-hand side. And here you can see info about your node. I'll just give it a quick little refresh to make sure it's up to date. So it gives you kind of a score on your node statistics. Flow means how many channels are actually having activity through them. You can scroll through and see how they rank. Of course, a lot of people have opened channels with me that maybe haven't done any volume yet. It's a relatively new node, so maybe this will improve over time. You can also see uptime stats of various nodes that are connected to you. Most of mine are pretty good, but you know, if I'm looking at some and they look a little suspect and they're getting down low, maybe it's time to think about closing out channels. But again, the node is too new to really worry about that too much. You can see fee stats from other individuals, what their nodes are set to. And then you can also see your own fee stats as to what it ranks as a pretty good fee. So even the ones that I have a little bit higher, like that are set at around 250, it says very good base fees and parts per million fees, or the 250. When you start getting above 250, I can see like async, it gives it a little less of a good rating, but I still have transactions being routed through there, so I'm not worried about that. But some interesting info that you can glean from that, and very, very useful. And the last thing I really want to touch on here is I really want to touch on backing up your channel states. Okay, so yes, when you set up your Umbrel node, you have a you do have a seed phrase that you back up and you store safely, and that does pertain to all of your Bitcoin on that node. However, you also want to back up your channel states for your Lightning node, and the way you do that is in the Tools tab. You hit on Tools, and then you can see an option that says Backup All Channels, and you just hit Download. And you want to do this basically relatively frequently. Honestly, when I'm on my node, every time I'm on here, once a day, once every couple of days, at the very least, I would say once a week, give this a download and just have it as a file where you can readily use it, even back it up elsewhere, you know, pull it onto an SD or even encrypted cloud storage, whatever you want, but just have a copy of that in case something happens to your node. You will be able to re-access all of these channels, and nobody can kind of run away with money or say that they hadn't paid you and try to close the channel, so on and so forth. People can kind of mess around with that if you don't have the channel states. And then finally, if you do want to recover, this is where you would do it. You'd come back here and you'd hit the recover button and use that same file that you just downloaded, and you would recover all of your channel states. That is pretty much that. This is so much, you guys. I apologize. This was a lengthy one, but hopefully you find this useful. Obviously, I'm going to miss things. I may misspeak. This is also new to me. Don't take me as like the gospel of Lightning and ThunderHub. I'm doing my best here. I hope that this at least gets you guys to start dabbling and playing around. And hopefully we'll see a ton more channels, a ton more people diving into Lightning Network and starting to run their own nodes and tinker with channel management. Thank you guys so much for watching. This one was an absolute doozy, and there were a lot of people asking for this, and I apologize that it took me so long to get to it. But yeah, it was quite the undertaking. Anyways, guys, as always, please do hit like, subscribe, and share. All of those things help so much. And get this out there to whoever you think may find it useful. If you want to help us the show in another way, there's a few things you could do. You could hit up the sponsors that I mentioned down below. That was LEDN, Bitrefill, and PrivacyPros.io for the BillFodl. Or you could, in light of this tutorial, you could always drop me a tip via Keysend directly to my node. I will link that in the show notes, so if you want to test that out, feel free to do so. But maybe tweet at me and let me know that you've done it, because otherwise I won't really see it or know who did it. Again, with Keysend, you don't get that information. So feel free to do that. And if you're still a little timid on the whole Lightning node thing and it's not quite set up yet, and you feel like dropping a tip, you can still tip via Lightning at my tipin.me page using something like Breeze Wallet or Blue Wallet, or something that is just kind of a download and go Lightning wallet for your phone. You can do that at tippin.me/@BTC Sessions. That is tippin.me/@BTC Sessions. With that, I am out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening wherever you may be, and I will see you guys next time for your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.